IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we share the journey of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners.
Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories. Hope you're all well and keeping safe. On the podcast today, we host author, columnist, and podcaster Shoba Narayan as we talk about her latest book, Namma Bangalore, The Soul of a Metropolis. As a part of the episode, we're giving away a couple of copies of Shoba's book on Bangalore, so make sure to answer 3 simple questions linked in the show notes and stand a chance to win a copy of the book. Let's hop onto the episode now and find out more about Bangalore. So with that introduction, we'd love to welcome Shoba Narayan, a journalist, columnist, and author. Shoba, thank you so much for being on the Musafir Stories and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed your podcast for so long and it's delightful to be a guest. Thank you.
Thank you, Shoba. And on the podcast today, we'll be discussing Shoba's most recent book, which is also tied to my hometown. So really excited to be talking about this, Shoba. The book is called Namma Bangalore, The Soul of a Metropolis. Shoba, before we dive into the book itself, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your Bangalore connection and how the book came about?
Yeah, thank you. I've been here, lived here 18 years now. So I'm a new Bangalore by old Bangalorean standards, but I'm an old Bangalorean by relatively some people who've been here just 2-3 years. I love the city, and the book is a love song to the city I now call home. And the book came about because I started, after 2 or 3 years ago, I started writing about Bangalore as a column for Hindustan Times, and then amassed so many columns, and I said to my editor at Rupa, why not we make a book of it? And that's how it started. And then, of course, became the real work of converting a column into a book, which, as you know, being a podcaster, it's not a simple thing. So
Yeah, for sure. I know it must have been quite the journey, and I went through the book that bring back a lot of memories. I think I'm a little bit on the reverse trajectory, if I may. I was born and raised in Bangalore and lived there for the longest time, and now for the last 12-14 years I've been away from Bangalore. So the book did bring back a lot of good old sweet memories, and Bangalore has been reduced to an annual pilgrimage for the past few years. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation as well. But tell me a little bit about the name of the book too, Shoba, Namma Bangalore, right?
Yeah.
Was that
yes.
very conscious choice of the name given the recent changes with us going back to the old name of Bengaluru?
So, Saif, you know that we all now, local people, now we call it Bengaluru, and we are happy to call it. It has a nice musical ring to it. So that's what I suggested to my editor, Dibakar Ghosh at Rupa. And he said, listen, for you Bangaloreans who sit there, it's very common to call it that. But if you search on a book on Amazon on Bangalore, people outside Bangalore still type Bangalore, not Bengaluru. So Namma Bangalore was a compromise because most people outside, certainly outside India, but at least even within India, don't know the name Bengaluru or don't use it as much. So SEO ratings Zindabad. That was the reason for the change.
Yeah, no, I mean, you probably, it is definitely a valid take about Bangalore being the more international or known brand outside, right outside of Bengaluru. But I think it also, I think it's a great confluence also, right? It has that Namma and Bangalore, it has that global and local in there.
Yeah.
And going back,
and you know, Safe, people here are not, we are not fussed about, I mean, people, at least the nice thing about Bangalore is we are not fussed. We say Bangalore, we say Bengaluru, it doesn't matter. And both goes. So that way it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bangalore is very cosmopolitan that way, right? So we do
Yes.
definitely have the best of both worlds in that sense. And I guess just going back to the name itself too, it does also tie into the colonial connections that Bangalore has had, right, with the Britishers setting up the
Correct.
cantonment here. So there's a little bit of that that brings in, and it's also a good segue for us to talk a little bit about the history of this place that both of us now call home. I still call it home, right? Shoba, you could still call it. I still call it home. Bangalore has its connections, right? Like I said, there's colonial connections to Bangalore, but its history is far more colorful than as recent as the Britishers, right? For the longest time, we've had stories and legends about how the name came about, to even more recently discovering that the history actually goes back to several hundred years than was considered until recently. So you've actually covered a few good points about that in the book too. Do you want to touch upon some of those aspects, right from what it has been known as to the Kempegowda connection to now the recent findings about it being much older?
Sure, Saif. So there is a persistent narrative in Bangalore that it's a new city, and compared to not just North Indian cities like Delhi, but also closer cities like Chennai and Hyderabad, because Bangalore, as you know, Saif, is dismissed as Silicon Valley, which is startups and tech and stuff. But all over Bangalore, you find inscription stones or Veeragallu or hero stones, as we call them, that date back 517 CE. So, and the other thing that I learned while researching this book is all the neighborhoods that we think of in Bangalore as new are actually old, and all the neighborhoods that we and vice versa. So the old Cotton Pete, Bale Pete, Chick Pete, all of those we think of as the old town, whereas Indira Nagar, as you know, with the pubs and the restaurants, we think it's a hopping new neighborhood. Well, there is a bus stand in Indira Nagar, the Binnamangla bus stand, where you can find an inscription stone that is 1,000 years old. The oldest inscription stone is near the infamous Silk Board Junction, which now is choked with traffic. But you go there and you find a stone where it's actually called Bengaluru, B-E-M-G, Bengaluru. So these are stones that you find all over the place. In Hebbal, there is a stone. So the idea that Bangalore is a startup capital of India. It is the Silicon Valley of India. It is tech city and pub city and all that. But it's also an ancient city that can hold its own to Delhi or any of the other cities that we think of are old Indian cities, say. So that's what. And then, of course, in one chapter, as you pointed out, I say the chapter is titled 10 Mind-Blowing Things About Bangalore's History. And I bring up a lot of things, 10 things actually. One is that when they were paving HAL airport, making the runway, they found Roman coins, 256 Roman coins with the names Augustus, Tiberius, and all inscribed on them. Well, the Roman Empire fell in, I think, 476. So clearly trade was happening between Bangalore and the Roman Empire before that. So there is that. Then there's also the other stuff where there is a fanciful legend that, and yours is at heart a storytelling podcast where you touch upon all these. So I'll add to it. There is a fanciful folk tale that says, how does Bangalore get its name? And the story is that the 12th century Hoysala king, his name was Veerabalala. He went on a hunt. He got tired. He was resting. And a woman offered the tired king boiled beans, which is what we call in Kannada as Bendakalu. And Bendakalu became Bendakaluru. But actually, this tale is false because an inscription stone proves that it was called Bengaluru before this Veerabalala's time. So for me, one of the pleasures of researching this book is that all the things that I had as stereotypes in my mind got upturned. The new neighborhoods are old, the old neighborhoods are new. The tale of the king who ate the boiled beans, false. So that was wonderful about doing this book, Seth.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've called out a lot of good points in the book too. And Inscription Stones of Bangalore, right, run by Uday Kumar. I would encourage people to check that out too. It has a lot of, almost like a log of all of these hero stones or Veeragallu, like you mentioned, across Bangalore. And you will be like, yeah, for me at least, when I found this out, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I guess, it was a mind is equal to blown moment for me. But yeah, for anybody interested, do definitely check out. They have a very good Facebook community which I follow to get a lot of that information about where these are found. And I think kudos to people like that who have actually been championing and doing this, because a lot of these stones, the stories that go about how they were discovered or found, there's also literally one was along a drain or while something was being dug up to maybe construct something new, etc. So I'm glad that they've kind of been discovered, and now there's an effort to preserve them and learn about our own history as well. And moving slowly from the stones to the rock at Lal Bagh, right? What about that too? Goes back to, yeah.
That goes back. I mean, Lal Bagh is a beautiful park in the center of Bangalore for people who don't know. And there is this huge rock jutting up, and we all go walk up and stand on that rock. But what is magical is that is part of the Dharwar Craton, which goes back 3.5 billion years. It is one of the oldest rock formations, not just in India, but in the world. And for us to be able to stand on a rock that's really that old is, again, to your point, mind-blowing. And Bangalore is perhaps the only city in the country that has access to it. The Dharwar Craton stretches across South India, but it's harder to find it in other parts of South India. In Bangalore, we just go to Lal Bagh and we climb up on it.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of interesting facts like that. The book is full of a lot of fun facts and tidbits and a lot more things also that we'll discuss in the podcast. But slowly moving from 3.5 billion years ago to more recently around the 80s and the 90s and the noughties, like they call it, it went from that time to, like, in the 80s and the 90s, Bangalore was popular as the pensioners' paradise, right? For its beautiful weather, less traffic, safe environment.
Yes.
So it went from that slowly to the pub city, like it's been known, right?
Yes.
And how's that transition been, Shoba? And I mean, obviously, in your book too, you have sections dedicated towards how it's become the pub capital and the different types of drinks, be it wine or beer, or even for the kosher ones like me, coffee of Bangalore.
Yes.
Do you want to touch upon that section, Shobha? Because I know you're also like in your writings, this and the food is an area you specialize in. So do you want to touch upon that transformation?
Yeah, thank you. So Bangalore is known for Kingfisher beer, which was founded by Vittal Malya. But before that, there is a community called Edigas or Edigas. You can pronounce it in any way. But they are business people who moved to Bangalore, and one of their occupations was toddy tapping. So that is the old history. But the more interesting fun fact, Saif, as somebody who now lives in Canada, I want to tell you is Bangalore has the highest number of microbreweries in India. We have close to 100 microbreweries. And people in Delhi and Bombay were sitting and wondering, why are there so many microbreweries in Bangalore? And what I discovered recently after talking to so many brewmasters is that it is our notorious traffic that is causing this to happen, and combined with our laws. So I have a friend who has a brewery called Geist, and he said, Shoba, if I have a outlet in Hoskote, people from Whitefield will not come across town to drink. So the same brewery opens 3 outlets in different parts of Bangalore. So combine that, and there's a mushrooming number of brewmasters who come from abroad and set it up here. And so the microbrewery scene is fantastic in Bangalore. Then there is the wine clubs. We have the Bangalore Wine Club. We have other smaller clubs that enjoy drinking wine. I think the weather contributes to this because people like their drink here. Amrut and Paul John, which are 2 well-known and well-respected single malts, have their base here. And to your point, Saif, about the coffee, there are certain parts of Kormangla you go and there is all these coffee. So I have this funny piece in the book about, I don't want Black Baza coffee, even though it's the name of a bird. I don't want Flying Squirrel coffee. I just want coffee from Panduranga Coffee Works in Coorg or Suma's Coffee in Baswantgudi. So there is an old coffee drinkers, I say in the book, you can tell that it's an old coffee drinker community if it says Coffee Works in the name. Whereas the newer ones have all these Blue Tokai, Maverick and Farmer, but all of it in third wave. So all of it goes in Bangalore. So people at home, they'll drink their filter coffee with the beans and the podi or the powder that their mom buys from wherever old outlet, and then they'll go out, have a coffee with their friends, and they'll sit at third wave coffee or whatever and have a latte or a pour over. So Bangalore is very layered as a city. It is, they hold on to the old, but they sort of swing with the new as well, which is wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I mentioned, there's a full section on the drinks of Bangalore in the book too, and one could check it out to get a lot of insights about the culture of the city like this. And moving on from wine to a little bit of dine, if we may, Shoba. Again, this has been a specialty, right? I mean, your previous books, when you started out, food has been a forte of yours. So do you want to touch a little bit upon that? I know there's a variety of foods covered in the book too, but I was literally salivating, and you could imagine me sitting up late at night trying to prep for the episode, and all of these things from Nippatu to Kodbale and all of that come up, and I'm going crazy here. Where do I find them even? So yeah, let's jump into some of the little known maybe for the outsiders, but really well known snacks of Bangalore, right? We do have a very rich snacking culture that way. Let's start off with Kodbale and explain to listeners a little bit about what it is and why it's so special to us.
Sure. So Kodbale is I was looking for snacks that are distinctive of Bangalore or Karnataka. So you have your chaklis everywhere, but this Kodbale is, so first of all, the name. Kodu is actually an elongated shape. So we have Kodu referencing beans, the long beans. Bale is what we call in Kannada for bangle. So Kodbale is an elongated bangle. And the recipe is pretty much the same as with any South Indian savory items. You have your carbs, you have your rice flour, some chiroti rava, maida, or all-purpose flour as you call it. Then you grind some fried gram or chutney kadle as we call it. And then you add the spices. You sort of grind it all together and then make a little mixture of it, and then fry it in piping hot oil, and then you have your Kodbale. But within the Kodbale, there are so many types of Kodbale. There is the Mosaru Kodbale, which is where you add some yogurt or curds, as we call it in India, to the dough. And you have it as spicy as you want or not as spicy as you want, which brings me to the Nippatu, it can be spicy. There are some neighborhoods where you can have very spicy Nippatu, whereas some which are foreigner friendly are less so. But I would argue that Kodbale and Nippatu are two of Bangalore's very favorite monsoon snacks. When it rains, you have your chai, and you go to your Iyengar before the rain begins. You go to your Iyengar bakery, stock up on some Nippatu or Kodbale, then you have your tea and sit on your balcony and watch the rain beat down. So I think this is a tea time snack, and the scent of pouring rain and sipping your masala chai, it's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people might worry about rains and what kind of havoc it's causing. Obviously, like monsoons, it can be a difficult time, but for us Bangaloreans, it is a time to think about our snacks. And I think, yeah, there is a little quote that I really picked up, not a quote, a line from the book where you say, when the monsoon makes an appearance in Bangalore, the oil starts sizzling. That one really took me back to Mom's kitchen and all of the good things that monsoon would bring, right? So some really good memories from back there, right from your Kodbale to Nippatu and even Madurvade, just to name a few, right? And besides that, there's also very rich table full of North Karnataka dishes that you also bring out in the chapter. Do you want to give a quick mention to that, Shoba?
Yeah, thank you. So, Saif, everybody knows the Bel Puri, but have you heard of Mandaki or Girmit, which is part of North Karnataka? And the first time I tasted it was actually a funny story. I was in an auto going, and suddenly near Begur Lake, which is one of the older neighborhoods of Bangalore, the driver turns to me and he says, "One nimsha mama," that is basically making a face that says, "Please adjust, I just want to go duck out." I said, okay, I thought it was a pit stop, but he rushes out to a shop called Mirchi Mandaki Mane, Taste of North Karnataka. And so I rush out after him because, like you said, food is my métier. It's what I like to write about. And I watch him stand there and give instructions to the cook who's mixing the. So what I thought was Bel Puri, he's saying less of this, more of that. And you do that to a Bel Puri guy, they're going to upturn the whole thing on your head. But here, this guy is. So then I came up with the idea that the way that we do girmit, as we call it, and I've since made it at home, girmit is not a dish. It's a connection between whoever prepares it and the person who's eating it. So because which should, in my, and so I would like to make the case that Bel Puri ought to be this way, where you are allowed to say, I want less of this and more of that. But girmit is that's how it's done. People take it on picnics. I know it's stereotypical to say the mom does it. Maybe the dad does it too. But he mixes it up and ladles it out for his kids. But the taste is out of this world. It's very spicy, so you have to have a tolerance for spice, much like most of North Karnataka food has a lot of spice to it. But it's delicious. And I would highly recommend it. For those of you who are tired of Bel Puri, please have girmit.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is, again, going back to we've been blessed, right? Being pretty much at the center of a lot of the action, not just recently, but even for a long time, like you mentioned, through trade and through a lot of different things. Bangalore has been a melting pot of people from not just across Karnataka, but from across the country coming in, and food has that way become a blessing for us. Like we've had the opportunity to try out food, not just from other parts of Karnataka, but even from outside of Karnataka, right? And yeah, North Karnataka cuisine is a different world in itself. We recently did a episode on Bijapur, right? And even in that, we were touching upon the beautiful cuisine and the Karavalis. I think it could be a podcast series in itself, not even just a podcast episode. It could be a series in itself. No surprises there. The section and the chapters on the food, the different foods of Bangalore, is the soul of the book too. Again, kudos to you, and all your previous writings clearly show the influence here in the book too. And slowly kind of shifting from the food to even the neighborhoods of Bangalore, right? You've called out some really, really good examples, and took me back to, like we said, maybe previously we did consider this the older part of Bangalore, but now the definitions of what is old Bangalore might have changed a little bit. But I think a good natural transition from food to a neighborhood would definitely have to be through VV Puram, I would say, right? Do you want to call out its speciality and what it's known for, Shoba?
Sure. So I went with a friend, Kunal, to Tindi Bidi. Tindi Bidi literally means Tiffin Street in Vivipuram, or Cow Gully as some other places call it. And here you get everything. But what is Bangalore's specialties are idlis. So you have, there is a place where you get the softest idlis in the world. And then you have VB Bakery, or Vishweshwarapuram Brahmin's Bakery, which is known for its Khara biscuits. Khara biscuits are a very special to India. It's very hard to describe them because they're flaky, they're crunchy, they're sort of sweet, sour, sweet and savory at the same time, and you have them with tea. And then in this VB Bakery, which is sort of at the entrance of Vivipuram, you have one thing called, so I was thinking, Saif, about what can I present to your readers as one thing to have in this? And I would suggest that you have the Khara Bun Congress, and it's called KBC. And Congress peanuts are what Bangalore calls masala peanuts, because they were cut in half, much like the Congress party was cut in half in 1969. So there's a little bit of newer history there. But the KBC bun is cut in half, generously smeared with butter, filled with these Congress masala peanuts, which are really spicy. And then you make it like a hamburger, except there's peanuts in the middle, and then you eat it. So the VB Bakery is a great stop. Then you walk down the road and you have idlis, you have dosas, or as we call in Bangalore, dose, and then you have gulkand ice cream at the end of the street. You have corn, and then if you're really lucky, you will come and have a masala soda at Sri Ganesh Fruit Center, where the owner will insist on mouth-feeding you a bottle of this masala soda, and you have to keep drinking it like a bottoms-up a tango between the person who pours and the person who drinks. And in the end, if you drink it continuously, he will say, good boy or good girl. So no matter your age, you will suddenly become a school kid. So this is a great area that people should visit. Not enough tourists go, but maybe your audience, Musafir Stories, is very popular, so they will go there.
Yeah, for sure. Again, one of the underrated places, I would say, which easily gets lost in the pub city title for Bangalore, right? So there's only high and posh and fancy places in Bangalore, but places like these are literally the soul of Bangalore food, and I would encourage users to check it out. For me too, like my dad's business has always been based in the JC Road area, right? So we've been very close to Vivipuram, and like you mentioned, be it the Kara biscuit or your KBC or your bun muska. Like we have the equivalent of bun muska, right? Bun jam, bun
Yes.
butter. We get all of those, and as kids as well,
Yes.
we have like fond memories of always getting a mouthful of those, I should say. While we used to visit that area, right? So, really, really fond memories. And again, reading it and especially prepping for this episode late at night, I really, it was a difficult time, I should say, Shoba, but in a good way.
Why don't you come? Next time we'll go together.
We should definitely plan something. And I think you've mentioned this in the book too. One, obviously, it is the Kagali or the Tindi Bidi, like they say, but it also has this annual Aurikai festival too.
The Parishes.
The Parishe.
Yes.
That's also very unique, I would say, right? Shoba, you want to give a quick mention and a quick shout out to that?
So, which other state or city will celebrate the harvest of groundnuts or avrekai, which is another type of water hyacinth nut? And here we have these parishes where literally people are thronging the streets, and there are pedestrians, vendors sitting on the sidewalk selling huge mounds of fresh green avrekai or kadlekai, and it's at different times. They don't come at the same time. And that's the time, I mean, Bangaloreans are obsessed with fresh food, seasonal food, all the stuff that my global chef people I've interviewed in Canada and the US, all the global chefs keep talking about, oh, we want to serve local seasonal food. Well, in Bangalore, they've been doing that. They buy this beans just after they come off the harvest, and then they have a whole variety of recipes that they use to serve it over the next couple of months. And then onward it is to another festival with another bean, which may be groundnuts. So that's it goes in Bangalore, you know. We eat seasonally and locally all the time.
Yeah, so if somebody has the opportunity, and if you're in Bangalore, I think it's towards the, can't remember, end of the year or early in the year, right? December or Jan, I guess, that time frame.
Yes, I agree. I'm also thinking it's around now actually. November is when you head for the Kadlekai, Avrekai. That's Kadlekai Parishe. It's in November. Yeah.
So if you're in town at that time, I would certainly encourage people to check it out, right? It's really unique.
And the Avrekai Mela is in January, as Seth said. So.
Yeah. So that was Vivipuram for you in a nutshell. Obviously, there's a lot more, but we thought we'll give you a quick flavor of it here and then let you explore at your own pace. And quickly moving on from one very popular neighborhood to another one. Again, this one has some fond memories. I'll tell you why during the course of our conversation. But Shivaji Nagar, right? That is also a place that you have mentioned in the podcast, in the book, very fondly.
Yes.
All these neighborhoods are like the arteries and the veins of the city, right? Do you want to give a quick overview of Shivaji Nagar and what one can find there?
Yes.
Shobha?
So I live in Shivaji Nagar, Saif. So it's an area that is closest to my heart. And I love it because there's talk about India being secular, and you really see it in Shivaji Nagar because one of the biggest celebrations is to the St. Mary's Basilica, which is in the center of Shivaji Nagar. And a lot of the businesses there are run by Muslims. And surrounding areas is the cantonment, which is a mixed bag of people from all over India. And then surrounding that are the Hindu neighborhoods of Al-Sur, the older neighborhoods. So you have it all. You have the colonial his past, which is you can see through the cantonment. You have India's three great religions, which is Hindu, Islam and Christianity, all there in Shivaji Nagar. And you have the complete mingling of all this. So you will see, for example, I go to Ibrahim Sahib Street to buy silver. I go to Marudar Papers, which is on Lubbe Masjid Street, and he gets Italian papers and he cuts it to size. So these are some of the pleasures of India. And then there is Jeweler Street, where my kids, when they visit from the States, generations of college students, both boys and girls, have got their belly pierced or their ears pierced. So it's a complete mishmash. If you want glitzy sequined fabrics, you go to the Evening Bazaar or a Femina Bridal Collection or Pakiza, which are all on Sepping Street. Then you have a Cutting Chai in New Bilal Tea Center, and you go to Russell Market, again named after a British guy, and you buy your tuberoses, your lotuses, whatever you want, or you walk down a little bit further down where the butchery is there, and you buy your meat, and then there's a fish market right outside. You can buy your vegetables. So it's all there. And I think if you want to get a proper flavor of Bangalore, Shivaji Nagar is the place. And Commercial Street is the shopping hub. Before all the new malls came, people all over Bangalore, probably of your parents' generation, they would all go to Commercial Street to shop. So it is probably my favorite neighborhood to buy, because perfect examples is that there is a street named after a Goan, MF Norona Street. And on the street corner is J. Siddiqui, which I've been going to buy my stainless steel vessels or cast iron tawa. So you have Norona, Siddiqui, and Shoba, Hindu, Muslim, Christianity, all there in one place. So I think for Bangaloreans or visitors as long as you can put up with the crowd, if you're a tourist, I think walking around Russell Market is a great way to understand what India is about.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned, right, the St. Mary's Basilica, even that gives you an overview of the way Bangalore is, right? Like one of the biggest basilicas, I believe, in the in the town. And then even how St. Mary's is dressed there, you'll see her draped in a sari. I don't know if it's the main, but even on the outside they have a few idols that are draped in saris. So that's how kind of we make things our own, our way. And even just going back to the name of the area, right? Shivaji Nagar, named after, I believe it's the Maratha Emperor Chhatrapati Shivaji, right? That's how I believe it's named after.
I forgot to mention that,
Yeah, and another lesser known fact is Chhatrapati Shivaji actually did spend a few years of his childhood here in Bangalore. Like his father Shaji had connections to the Bijapur Sultanate and ended up having Bangalore as his Jagir. So Chhatrapati Shivaji actually spent a few years, and I learned that on one of the walks I took in Bangalore with a company that does all of these heritage walks. So that is another. And for me, fond memories of Shivaji Nagar are my granddad used to rear pigeons, right? And so we used to visit Russell Market to. Whenever we used to buy pigeons, we used to buy them from there. So there's those memories also, like taking the bus all the way from Jayanagar to Shivaji Nagar, getting down and walking to Russell Market. And it is cacophony, right? Like you mentioned, it is chaos. But somewhere in between that, I find calm just thinking and going back to those good old days. But yeah, one has to definitely visit Shivaji Nagar to understand and get a little bit of a taste of how Bangalore has been and how multicultural also it has been, like you rightly mentioned. So really good and fond memories of Shivaji Nagar too. And as I was mentioning, there is a little bit more in terms of Maratha connection, and I think this neighborhood kind of speaks to it. We'll touch upon that. But Malleshwaram is another area that you have covered on the book too. And Chhatrapati Shivaji's brother, I believe Venkoji, or might be messing up my names, but the Kadu Malleshwara temple actually has an inscription that actually has a connection with Venkoji, right? So that way too, there's the Maratha connection in Bangalore. But you bring out a very different face of Malleshwaram in the book. Do you want to give listeners a quick overview of that aspect, Shoba?
Yeah. So, Saif, I'd heard of this Malleshwaram and the Maratha connection, but I didn't realize it was this close. I'll have to read up on it. So thank you so much for telling me that. I'll go look it up. You keep learning every day in Bangalore, all these layers that are happening. So what I wrote about in the book is street art. So in this Instagram generation, I feel that people visit places which are photography friendly. And I was thinking in Bangalore, we should have some place like that. And it turns out to be Malleshwaram, because what they've done is they've come together as a community and they've painted on the walls of the street these lovely murals. So a group of artists have done it all across Bangalore. You see it. And again, it's a mix of different men and women of all cultures and religions doing it. And it's quite beautiful. So you go there and you can get your selfie taken in front of a street mural. and they call it. There is a website called Geechugulu, and that has information about the street art of Malleshwaram. But when people think of Malleshwaram, they think of it, the people who live there call it the center of the universe. My friend is a Kathak dancer, Madhu Natraj, and she runs the Natya Institute of Kathak and Choreography, which is based in Malleshwaram. And every other person who lives there thinks that, oh, this is the center of the universe. But I would say Malleshwaram is a place where Bangaloreans go for shopping for flowers or for the saris, to get a taste of old Bangalore. But more recently, I find people go to take selfies in front of these beautiful street murals. So that's what I wrote about in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was really pleasantly surprised, I should say, as to how beautifully, street art and walking go hand in hand. And a lot of the street art has come up on what we used to know back in the day, or still known as conservancy lanes, right? That's where a lot of this street art has come up, and just learning a little bit about that history and the connection, and how organizations like these, right? I forget the name. I know you've mentioned the names of those organizations too that are kind of working towards.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch.
Yeah.
That's the wonderful thing. Yes, there's Bangalore Moving. There are the Geechagalu, like I said. Purpose is another one. But you have a global audience, so I guess for the global audience, the specifics it may not be as relevant to them. But the point is that a whole group of different NGOs came together with artists to create this neighborhood with beautiful street art.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we, at least older Bangaloreans, keep complaining that the city is not walker friendly, right? You can't pedestrian friendly.
Yes.
But this initiative actually defies that, and actually encourages you to get out on the street in this day of Uber and Ola, where you're just jumping from place to place in a cab. This is a great initiative. I actually had a chance to do this actual walk. It's called as Malleshwaram Hogona, and it's done by this walking tour company called as Gully Tours, right? They do a variety of tours. Yeah, they do a variety of tours across Bangalore. I would recommend you check them out. We hope to have them on the podcast soon too. But this was such a great initiative. In my recent visit in Bangalore, I actually had a chance to do this very same walk with the lovely Radula, who actually walked through all of these the different places that have these street arts, gave us the history and even the background about each one of them, right from Paura Karmikas, right, the people who actually help keep our streets clean, right, the women who keep the streets clean, to filter coffee, to even connection about how Bangalore moved from an age of, let's say, untouchability to being more inclusive. There's a lot of street art, and obviously being Instagram worthy helps too, right, to popularize them. But just tying them back to the wonderful connection about women empowerment. There were so many different things. There's a good, I would say, 12 or 15 of these the murals or the paintings that you could go and visit, and it's a good 2.5 hour walk around Malleshwaram, and I would highly recommend. Obviously there's the Kadu Malleshwara temple and other popular temples, and your CTRs and whatnot in the areas, but yeah, street art was something that really surprised me, and this facet of Malleshwaram, really appreciate you bringing this to the fore as well in the book, Shoba.
You really know your Bangalore.
No, Shoba, you won't believe it. I think a lot of it has actually been after I've been away from Bangalore too, right? When you were in the city, I was one of those locals that there's not too much in the city to see around, but once I was away and I started to miss Bangalore more and more, I started reading about more and more, and in my annual pilgrimages, like I said, I would take the opportunity to visit a lot of these places, and a lot of these heritage walk companies also make things so much more accessible, I would say. Otherwise, I'm very lazy to venture out on my own, so that helps too, going out with companies, these organizations like there's Bengaluru by foot, there's also Gully Tours who does a wonderful job, and Intac actually does walks in Bangalore too. So I would encourage anyone who has the time and is visiting Bangalore to check out if something is available. And a lot of these are on weekends and early in the day, so very pedestrian friendly too, and you don't have to go through the traffic hassles that Bangalore usually has during the day. So I would encourage checking those out. So again, another interesting aspect of neighborhood of Bangalore. But moving from Malleshwaram to a little bit more closer to home, and I say that more from where actually my home is, Jayanagar, to even for you, I guess, tying it back to home in the sense to nature and to birds. I know that is an area that you are keenly interested in, Shoba, is the parks of Bangalore, right? From Lal Bagh to Kavan Park, and you have a section in your book about the lungs of Bangalore, if I may call it. Do you want to touch upon that?
Yes. Yeah, so Saif, one of the nice things that's happened to me after moving to Bangalore is I've become a lover of nature. I've become an avid bird watcher, and Bangalore has this wonderful community of wildlife lovers. Some of my friends, for example, there's 1,000 people are in a Telegram group, which is a virtual app kind of thing, a Telegram group called Bangalore Wildlife Friends. And in this group, there are people who specialize in ants, spiders. There are people who specialize in frogs. One of them is my friend. His name is Kappe Sheshadri or Frog Sheshadri. There are people who specialize in trees. So Bangalore has a wonderful and very inclusive group. If you want to be part of it, you just have to show up in Lal Bagh on the second Sunday of every month at 8 a.m. and you will see this group of nature lovers. They will take you on their walks. They'll tell you about the trees, the climbers, the bats, the ducks, and all the flowers. So I would say Bangalore's salubrious weather is a perfect way to get outside. And we also have tons of lakes, we call them kere in Kannada. So there is also kere, there's Sankitang, there's Hebala Lake. And again, around the lake, you see the water birds come in. So it's tomorrow I'm going bird watching in Indian Institute of Science and a verdant campus with lots of trees. So wherever you go in Bangalore, there are pockets. Even in Jayanagar, if you go beyond Jayanagar, there are lots. Banarghata is a magnificent place for nature walks. And then there's the hikers of Bangalore. The IndiaHikes.com is a great portal, and Bangalore is full of people come weekend. And I mentioned this in the book. They work in call centers during the day, and on the weekend they just take off to Nandi Hills or Savanadurga, Rangasamy Betta. There are lots of hikes all around. So outdoor activities, bird watching, nature are all intrinsic to Bangalore because of our weather. We can actually get out.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, not to overstress on the point, but even just looking at the history of Lal Bagh, right, you can see the different connections it has, right, from Hyder Ali to Tipu Sultan, who actually tried to set it up on the lines of the Mughal gardens in Delhi, to the German biologist, I think, Krumbiegel, right? I think there's a road named
Gustav Hermann Krumbiegel.
Yeah, there's a German botanist or biologist, I don't know what he was, but there's a...
No, he's a horticulturist. He designed all the gardens. Yes.
Yeah, horticulturist. So he was in Lal Bagh for a long time and helped through the Britishers and through the different people who came in. This was somehow maintained, and it does form an intrinsic part of Bangalore now. And like you said, it's just beyond going there for walks. There's a lot of things one could do, right from bird watching to... There's actually heritage walks in Lal Bagh too. For those interested, you could check that out. Lot of different things, and I think that's what makes it so special. And there's something for everybody, right? I know it's a little cliche to say that, but Bangalore has something for everybody. But I'd like to thank you, Shoba, that you've through the book, through your personal account, through your essays and all of that, you've given viewers, you've given readers, listeners such a wonderful account of the book, and just made everybody known of the different things one can find out and explore in Bangalore. As we start to wrap this up, Shoba, any final thoughts on, let's say, one thing you have to do while you're in Bangalore, or one thing that is really special to you that you love doing in Bangalore that you'd like to mention?
Yeah. One thing that we talked about, Seth, is the textile treasures of Bangalore. I think Bangalore is known for its fabric, and people who want to go shopping, there are a lot of places there where you can get a lovely Bangalore Mysore silk saris. But the one place I would like to recommend to your audience is the Bangalore International Center, which is a wonderful platform where you can go to listen to talks, panel discussions, you can watch art, you can watch performances. It's a vibrant place where every day there is a free performance or a panel discussion, and you go to Bangalore International Centre's website and you look up what's going on and you just show up there. So it's please go, please visit.
Absolutely. I know it's a little corny, but I think Bangalore has more faces, FACES, than it has
Yes.
faces, PHASES, right? There's so many phase 1, phase 2, whatever, the newer developments that we call. But it was such a lovely trip down memory lane, and such a strong dose of nostalgia early on a Friday morning for me. Shoba and I thank you very, very much for that. And as a part of the podcast episode as well, we'll make sure we do a giveaway of Shoba's book, so that way a couple of our lucky listeners will get a chance to get the book and read the book. For others, I'd encourage you to go buy the book. It's available on Amazon and every other popular website and bookstore. So definitely do check it out. We'll link it in the show notes of the episode. But Shoba, it's been delightful speaking to you, and thank you so much for sharing such fond memories of the place that you call home and I still call home, Bangalore or Bengaluru. So thank you so much, Shoba. It was lovely having you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Saif, and it was delightful to be part of the podcast.
That was yet another great episode on the Musafir Stories. Make sure to show us some love by sharing the podcast with your friends and family. We are on Instagram and Twitter at Musafir Stories. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM podcast app or the website. Follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.